We are coming to you from Parliament of Ghana, and we are seated with the member of Ketu North, Eric Edem Agbana, probably were the youngest member of the 9th Parliament. Honorable, welcome.
Thank you, George, and thanks for having me.
We'd like to first of all start with the 9th Parliament. We all watched the 8th Parliament, and it was quite spectacular in terms of action. One would have considered that because of the numbers, maybe it would have scaled down on the 9th Parliament. Between you and I, we all watched that unfolded as spectators. Now to the 9th Parliament, you are in the midst of all this. How has the experience been so far?
Well, it's been a very good learning experience, an experience that I do not take for granted at all, because Parliament, as the legislative arm of government, is a very, very important institution, and it's an institution of dignity, an institution where those of us privileged enough to be representing our people from our constituencies must take the business of Parliament very serious and contribute our best in ensuring that the progress and development that we seek for our country, we get it. And so Parliament is a very instrumental body in shaping our democracy. The 8th Parliament I followed keenly. Quite an interesting parliament, well balanced in terms of the numbers. 9th Parliament as a paradigm shift from that in terms of the numbers. But beyond just the NDC or my side having what we term as a super majority, if you follow proceedings in the House, you realize that we work with our standing orders. And so as a House, we do our very best to rely on the Constitution and on our standing orders to do the business for the day. Obviously, it comes with some interesting moments, and it is very popular with parliaments across the world. Even in the very advanced democracies, sometimes you see a bit of drama in their proceedings. But that is just what it is. I am thinking, and I believe, that despite all these experiences, shared experiences from other parliaments, we must never lose sight of the fact that we are representing our people and we are here for a cause. And the cause is for us to contribute to nation building. And that's why we must always place Ghana first. I am here representing Ketu North on the ticket of the NDC. But the very moment I took the oath of office as a member of parliament, I am representing every single person in Ketu North, whether NDC, MPP, CPP, APC, APK, regardless of their political parties, religious beliefs, or what have you, you represent the aspirations of the people. And so my hope, I believe, that moving forward, we'll be less partisan in our deliberations and focus more on Project Ghana, on issues that affect the people of Ghana, on issues that we can voice out, which truly represents the needs of the people. So it's been a good experience, and I must thank all the seniors who have provided guidance and the leadership for us to learn from them. It can only get better.
You mentioned how the 9th Parliament is already taking shape, and some events of the previous week has traveled into this week. Our conversation is largely going to be centered on events of this week. When talking about events of this week, we began the week with the sitting of the ad hoc committee set up by the Speaker to investigate the issues that happened during the appointment committee sitting. We are talking of the chaos. What do you make of the entire chaos that happened in at the committee?
Well, I think it's most regrettable because, yes, we can always disagree with each other. We may share different opinions, but we must not allow it to degenerate into the chaotic situation that we saw. When I went back, I was there, I witnessed the event, but when I went back home and friends, families, and friends from other parliaments outside even the continent sending us the videos, because the videos had gone very viral on social media.
You did get that reaction?
Yes, I got friends. I mean, I got friends even from Uganda. I have some friends in the Kenyan parliament, friends from South Africa, I have some friends from Italy, Germany, sending the videos, because one of the things we want to do is to share knowledge, share experience, and so we are always in touch. And so when they follow some of these events and they share the videos with you, sometimes it can be very embarrassing that is the aspect that gets to go viral. But I'm happy that the Right Honorable Speaker, who for me is an institution when it comes to parliamentary democracy across the world, I believe he is an institution that maybe Ghana has not even celebrated him well enough. We have really not given Speaker Bagbin his flowers because he is respected across the world. And so for him to preside over the House and for us to witness some of these scenes, I know it cost even his image a lot of damage, and we sincerely apologize to Mr. Speaker for that. I believe that the committee should go on with their investigations, and whatever reports comes out should shape deliberations moving forward, so that this the unfortunate event on that evening should not repeat itself again.
The minority was very, very more or less, I mean, an active participant in the chaos, but for some reason they've decided to boycott the entire hearing process.
Well, I'll wait for leadership to direct. We'll wait on leadership to see what steps that leadership will take concerning that. But like I said, we regret that unfortunate incident. We hope that it doesn't occur again. I am also looking forward to the House revising its own rules on how vetting is conducted. Out of these experiences, we should always pick valuable lessons and begin to do things better. People have asked questions that even in court, cross-examination, is it unlimited? Does the lawyer have the right to go on and on and on and on until he or she feels that he or she has had enough? Should we have limited time allocated for each vetting? Are there some areas we should bar members from asking questions about? So I think that the chaos also has provided us an opportunity to take a look at our standing orders on how the appointments committee conducts its own business. So I am looking forward to seeing some of these changes. So it's not only about the negative, but for me, we also can learn a lot from what happened and see how we build this democracy and make it better. I always say that democracy is the only subject that keeps changing rapidly without us losing its core essence. It's the only subject. Every day we learn from experience. Every day new legislation is introduced to address certain societal issues. Every day new methodologies are being adopted across parliaments because we can never exhaust the learning process. And so democracy gives us that opportunity to keep learning and relearning, to also unlearn certain practices, all in the betterment of our country. So it's a good experience for us to take the good lessons and rebuild how we approach some of these things.
At the national level, a lot of issues came up with it.
Yes.
And most of them somehow, some way found their way into the works of Parliament this week. We're talking about the declaration of the former Minister for Finance as a fugitive and a wanted man by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, a raid at his house by some security persons who have been confirmed to be state security operatives, and all the issues around it. Well, your leader eventually ended up apologizing for the raid, but do you think that principally Mr. Ken Oforiatta has a question to answer?
Well, I'm not the investigative body, and so I cannot declare whether or not the former finance minister has a question to answer. But I always say that as public officials, none of us should be placed above accountability. Accountability is key in building a very resilient, a very responsive and a system that can bring about the development that we're seeking for. Accountability is key. But I maintain that we have enough legislation to provide how this accountability can be demanded. It must be done and done properly. The Special Prosecutor's Office was established by the elsewhere Akufo-Addo administration, backed by legislation, and I do not know the full fact as to the processes they have gone through before declaring Ken as a fugitive. But I am aware that the institution is headed by a very celebrated, learned lawyer, and a lawyer of his stature, Kisi Ejaben. He doesn't get it right all the time. I may disagree with him sometimes. But I believe for him to make those pronouncements, I am convinced he may have gone through all the processes before making such a pronouncement on the former finance minister. But like President Mahama said during the campaign, my message is that if you are a former government appointee or a public official serving in this government, at any point in time that our accountability institutions extend an invitation to you, you must respond. Subject yourself to accountability, because it is only when you do that that the people of Ghana can have confidence in the systems that we are building. Because when we were campaigning, and in my interactions with the everyday Ghanaian, one of the concerns that people have, and I challenge you to conduct a survey, is the fact that daily in the news you will read that Kojo Mensah has been convicted to 5 years for stealing plantain, for stealing a goat, doing this, doing that. But they hear of huge sums of money, millions of dollars, and in some instances, billions being looted by public officials, and yet nobody is held accountable. And so we must begin to hold the political class also to account. So everybody who served in the previous government and everybody serving in this current government, nobody is above the laws, and everybody must subject himself to the accountability institutions whenever they need be. That is the only way we can defeat the canker called corruption, which has robbed us of our development.
You mentioned holding leaders past and present to account, and your government, which is relatively new, has taken some steps in that regard, setting up of the oral committee and all these little raids here and there that we are even witnessing. The NPP, being the minority caucus, has had reason to accuse the government of engaging in blatant persecution, even to say that some of these actions are without recourse to law.
Chief, I believe that the NPP does not even have the moral authority to speak about persecution. I am a member of parliament. I am an advocate for good governance. And on any day, I would want to see many more Ghanaians speak to issues of accountability and call for the right things to be done. I'll be one of the first, maybe MPs or people within the NDC who will call out any act of illegality in my government if I feel strongly that indeed government is not acting right. But this pretense and the hypocrisy of the NPP when it comes to these issues, matters of rule of law. Look, we're in this country for 8 good years, and I don't like this whole point of equalization. But for 8 years, we saw the blatant disregard for rule of law in this country. In this country, under President Akufo-Addo and the erstwhile NPP administration, we saw even people being held in police custody, even when court had given an order for them to be freed. We saw unprecedented number of raids by national security on people's properties and homes. I tell you something, in 2017, I was with the former deputy local government minister, as he then was, Honorable Kojo Ijekum, in his office when we had a call early morning that national security operatives were in his house looking for him. He came, subjected himself to whatever said, even without search warrant. The trauma and the embarrassment, the harassment that he went through in their hands, right in front of me. And when they finished, he even lodged a complaint that some gold bars, because he was legal, he had a license to deal in that way, even taken from his home by some of these operators. You may be aware of this story. And so if all of a sudden, just a few days or weeks after handing over, the NPP now wants to teach us what constitutionalism, what rule of law, and all these things mean. Where were they in the 8 years when we saw these unprecedented levels? I have said, and I will maintain, that if at any point in time there is an illegality, all of us should voice out and speak. But the pretense as though these people who are now raising issues about the legality of oral and what have you, just, they woke up all of a sudden from their 8 years of slumber and never saw the things that I'm talking about. We would certainly not take lessons on morality from a brothel. President Mahama is committed to leading a government that is accountable to the good people of Ghana. And we will not engage in any illegality.
I want you to address 2 quick issues before we move on to other things. First of all, the issue, on the flip side, your government has discontinued 10 or so cases which were instituted against some members of elements within your party. Is there a contradiction here?
No, if you embarked on political witch hunting, okay, took people to court when you had no evidence of wrongdoing, just to persecute them, and you could not provide the legal backing to your case to have them prosecuted, a government that is interested in justice obviously ought to have those cases discontinued. Because many of these cases were political. Now, the Attorney General asked a very important question, that if you, in 8 years, who took the matter to court, could not produce the evidence to back your case and have those people prosecuted, all of a sudden, you're expecting that the new government that comes in should find that evidence. Many of the cases are political, and political decisions meant to torment the ordinary Ghanaian. Look at the case of the Democracy Hub protesters, for example. Clearly an attempt to silence dissenting voices. And so, if anybody feels that any of these cases that have been discontinued, government did not do it properly, the courts are there. But there is no contradiction. And don't forget, it is not only 10 cases that the NPP government took to court against people in the NDC. So why are the other cases not withdrawn? The Attorney General did not just wake up from his sleep and say, I'm going to discontinue cases. For many of these cases, there was even what we call inaction on the part of government. So the cases were just there. They couldn't produce any evidence. In some cases, even the Republic was not going to court, and these individuals were just being held in court as a way of persecuting them. I think that if there is evidence that these cases did not merit prosecution, why not? We could drop them.
Finally, on the topical issues within the week, the issue of revocation of appointments by the government via a letter issued by the Chief of Staff. Ghanaians have been affected. Some argue that whoever these people are, they are Ghanaians, they have families to feed, they have responsibility to take care of. We are talking about nurses who have gone as far as renting rooms in where they've acquired these employments and all that.
So President Mahama is committed to providing sustainable jobs to young people in this beautiful country of ours. President Mahama believes that every Ghanaian who is qualified and is capable to work in any state institution must be given the opportunity to work. But what we do not support is deliberate mischief on the part of a government that has lost power, deliberate attempt to make sure that you make the system so difficult for the new government to thrive. You had 8 years to employ. You waited. You never took action on these young people. Young nurses that were not posted have always been there. Why do you wait? Just when you lost power and you were in the period of transition, then you started awarding them appointment letters, and in some cases, even backdating their letters. I know an institution, Ghana Gas, for example. After the NPP lost the election, they now went to advertise, recruited so many people, vetting, interview, whatever was done within a few hours, and people were given letters and they backdated. Many other state institutions, GRA and all these other places. So why do you do that? What is the intention? So it is even wrong, it is unethical for you to give appointment letters and backdate. So when you do that, because you think that you want to stifle the incoming government, the government has the right to revoke those appointments and get the right things to be done. Obviously, we will employ people, but there will be people who will be taken through the right channels of employment, and they will be given sustainable jobs. And look, to the NPP foot soldiers who benefited from this scheme, they should rather be angry at their party leadership that if you claim that those slots
or vacancies were available before December 7th, why did you keep them at home? Waited till you lost the election, or waited till the week of the elections. Then you started employing people as a means of deception. That is not the kind of employment that any serious government provides for its members. If the NDC does same, one day some of us will speak against it. If the vacancy is there and the resources are there to pay them, employ them within the right place. I know an institution I don't want to mention because the newly appointed acting CEO gave me briefing on the phone and I was alarmed. This is an institution that had total staff strength of 265. But between December 7th and ending of January, when this new CEO was appointed, the payroll had bloated from 265 to over 500. Why do you do that? If you could pay them genuinely and you think it will not be a burden on the institution, on the state, why do you leave them at home? You lost the election, then use the back door to now employ. And young people should even be angry at the MPP for some of these. That's why for me, I find it ridiculous, and I'm saying it without mincing words, very ridiculous that my colleague, the senior colleague, the Honorable Vicente Sefwa, and the NPP national organizer, Nanabi, are all over the place claiming that they are going to court. They should go to court. Some of us will go and file as parties. You know, we have amicus curiae, if that is the right legal term, a friend of the court, to be part of these issues, because some of these people are rather making mockery of themselves, especially when their position on these matters is demonstrates double standardness. For example, Honorable Asefua is my colleague. I wanted to tell him today. I couldn't see him even in the chamber because he was on TV this morning making all sort of noise that he is going to call. They are doing 2016. He was then the National Service President. The things he wrote on his social media when he got hints that National Service was recruiting people within the period of transition. Today, you want to go to court, we'll all go to court. And the MPP, you should chase people like Nanabi and Asefua because they were part of the system. Those opportunities were there. You denied them. They were busy employing family members, their loved ones, and according to their own youth, after they lost the election, people who had never even saw as part of those who suffered for them to get power were the ones that they employed. All of a sudden, you want to use the back door and pretend as though you love those young people the more. Please, the NDC government will not tolerate any attempt to stop us from exercising our rights and ensure that the right things are done. Appropriately, people will be recruited. Appropriately, people will be employed. We'll provide mechanisms to employ. Another thing, as a member of parliament, 22nd December 2024, a young man walked into my house, then as MP-elect, waiting to be sworn in, with documents. He needed funding, that he has been called to come for training into one of the security agencies. So I asked him, when did you apply? He said, oh, I applied in 2021. And you are now being called? Say, yes, I got a text message today.
3 years down the line.
3 years down the line. What happened? So the MPP chairman in the area called me and said, the list they sent there now. So you lost election 7th December. Then you were now in a hurry, using your party structures to recruit people into the security services.
The MPP has always maintained that within the between 2020 and 2024, they had fiscal challenges arising from the COVID-19 outbreak.
So all of a sudden, after losing the election, so it is after 7 December that the fiscal spaces are no more available. Please, you see, we, those in political leadership, must respect the Ghanaian people. This power that we hold doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the people. So don't take the people for granted. You misled them, give them all sorts of flimsy excuses, failed to provide sustainable jobs, brought in political slogans and political programs like NAPCO. Today, NAPCO recruits are still not paid. And you do all these things, explain to them you didn't have money. All of a sudden, after losing elections, you use the back door to employ them, backdate their appointments, and you want who to accept. Please, that system will not work. And I'm happy that the Chief of Staff is very firm in his resolve to get the payroll sanitized. President Mahama will provide employment, but we will not inherit any backlog of thousands of political employments that were done without due process. That will not happen.
The Member of Parliament for Ketu North, Eric Eden Abana, is my guest. This brings us to the first part, or the end of the first part of our interview. When we return, we delve into a statement that he has found reason to bring to the fore of discussing on the floor of Parliament. We are talking about rent and housing.